friends, my name is Haley and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my September book haul and I got a lot of books that I'm super excited about, especially gearing up for Halloween. I got some good spooky reads, so let's just jump right in because there's some good stuff in here. So kicking off September was Force Friday, which if you don't know, that is the day that Star Wars releases their first wave of toys and memorabilia, merchandise, whatever, promoting the new movie that's coming out. So I only made one purchase, and it was Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. So this is a prequel book. It's about Leia at 16, obviously living on Alderaan, and she's trying to prove herself as heir to the throne of Alderaan, but at the same time she's finding that her parents aren't acting like themselves and they have some secrets that she tries to uncover. So I think this book sounds so interesting, and I'm also really curious that it says Journey to Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now this takes place, what, like 30-40 years before The Last Jedi? So I don't know if they just put that on so that you know, oh, this is or came out around the time of Last Jedi, or if there's something that maybe ties in. I don't know. I'm probably planning on reading this around like late November or December, right before the movie. I want to try to read a bunch of Star Wars books around that time. We'll see how it goes, but I'm super excited for this book. At the same time, I made a bit of an impulse buy that I had no intention of buying for the moment, but I got Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. I couldn't pass this up because I got it at Target, and it's signed. Now, this is actually the first Leigh Bardugo book that I bought, but I couldn't resist getting a signed book because it's the first book that I have signed by an author that's not like a comic, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I've heard that this book is an origin story, but from the synopsis, I don't know that that's necessarily what it is. So basically, Princess Diana decides to risk what the Amazons think of her by rescuing a mortal girl who ends up being a direct descendant of Helen of Troy, and then, you know, they have to end up working together. That's just the really brief gist of it. There's kind of a similar story to that in the Brian Azzarello New 52, where she helps out another girl, and I think Wonder Woman stories like that are fantastic. Spoiler alert about my next book, I'm really falling in love with Leigh Bardugo's writing, so I'm super looking forward to reading this book whenever I get a chance to get to it. So now that I hinted at something, I picked up Six of Crows, also by Leigh Bardugo, and I've just heard so many good things about this book. I feel like this is like the crown jewel of BookTube right now. Like, everybody's read it, everybody's talking about it, and honestly, I was pushed a little bit to get it when they included a bookmark in Alcrate with quotes from the book, so I felt like I needed to know what my bookmark is about. So I picked the book up, and this is my current read, and I absolutely love it. So the synopsis is very simple. 6 criminals have to pull off an impossible heist, and I don't want to say any more about what they're trying to steal because I think that makes the reading much richer. I never knew what it was about. It doesn't even really explain what they're trying to get in the dust jacket, I don't believe. I was drawn to this book because on the inside flap, it gives a little description of each character. So a convict with a thirst for revenge, a sharpshooter who can't walk away from a wager, a runaway with a privileged past, a spy known as the Wraith, a heartrender using her magic to survive the slums, a thief with a gift for unlikely escapes. I don't know about you, I don't know if anybody else has thought this, but when I read that, I immediately thought of a D&D campaign. Like, they all sound like a bunch of neutral, chaotic neutral aligned guys, and it just sounded like something that I relate to because, you know, you have to make up the stories as you go along on D&D. So that was really what drew me into the book. It's not quite like a D&D campaign, actually reading it, but I still just love the characters so much. There is one book from August that's on my list because my last video was put up before I got this book, and it is The Hearts We Sold by Emily Lloyd-Jones, and I got this in Alcrate, so it's the Alcrate exclusive cover, which I must say is much prettier than the original. The original is fine, but I really love this red over the white. I think it's beautiful. So basically, this story is about a girl who lives a very troubled home life and she wants to do anything she can to get away from it. So she sells her heart to a devil. And that, off the bat, sounds really interesting because you usually sell your soul to the devil. So I'm curious to see the spin on selling your heart to the devil. But on top of that, she meets another boy who's done the same thing, and they kind of bond over having this shared experience that no one else has really dealt with, and they try to discover what their relationship means when they both don't have hearts anymore. So I think it sounds like a really interesting read. I might pick this up in October, but I have a lot of other books that are a priority over it, so we will see if I have time to get to it, but if I don't get to it in October, it'll be picked up very soon. The next book is Before She Ignites by Jodi Meadows, which was also an Crate. This was September's box, and if you want to watch my unboxing, I filmed the video for that, and you see me do oohs and ahs a lot because there were some incredible things in that box. I was so happy that I bought it because if I watched other people opening it, I would have been so jealous that I didn't have it. But this story sounds really interesting. It sounds like there's a lot of layers to it, which I really like. So the story is about this girl named Mira who is known throughout her realm not only for her beauty, but also for this peace treaty that was named after her. Mira discovers a secret that she really has to kind of understand what it means for her and her people and the treaty that was named after her. And then she's betrayed by the people that she thinks she's been able to trust and gets sent to this deadly prison called the Pit, and she has to fight to protect this secret that she discovers. I forgot to mention when I unboxed it, I think it's really important to mention that she has anxiety and OCD, and it's not something that we read about often enough, especially in fantasy. I think it's really impressive. We've got a person of color, seemingly, based on the cover. I think this could be a really important book, and it's got dragons, so how could it not be awesome? And that's interesting, too, to me, is that dragons aren't really mentioned in the synopsis. You just get that she's had her head off thinking about dragons, but that's all that you really get, so I'm really curious to see how they play in. I think this book sounds really interesting, and I honestly probably wouldn't have picked it up if it weren't for Crate, but I feel like this is one of those ones that's not going to be what you think it's going to be based on the synopsis. So as I mentioned, in November, I decided that I'm going to be taking part in NaNoWriMo this year. I don't say much about my stories when I write them to anybody. I just like to keep it to myself, keep it secret. But I will say that it's fantasy, and I'm really intimidated because I've never been able to fully build a fantasy world. So I was like, maybe I should pick up a book in October to give me a little bit of encouragement and see how someone else does it successfully. So I decided to pick up A Court of Thorns and Roses by... Court of Thrones? Not Throne of Glass. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I have read the first two books of Throne of Glass, and I'm not the biggest fan, but I feel like this story might interest me a little bit more. I know that it has a lot to do with fairies, so I'm curious about how they come into play, and I really want to see the world she's built. I've heard so many references to like the Autumn Court and the Winter Court and all that, and I think it sounds really intriguing. So the story is about a girl named Feyre who is a huntress, and she kills a wolf, and this creature drags her into another world as retribution for her act. But she's taken captive by a fairy named Tamlin, and obviously while she's there, her feelings start to change for him, a la Beauty and the Beast. So this shadow takes over the fairyland, and she finds that she needs to find a way to stop it, or else Tamlin might be harmed. So I'm very interested. I also like Beauty and the Beast, obviously a big Disney fan. So I'm really curious to see this adaptation. I think it sounds really unique. And like I said, I'm really interested in the world building. Now we're getting into the horror stories. There's a lot of books that I picked up, and even more on my TBR, which you'll be seeing in a few days from now. But basically, Zoe of Read by Zoe announced that she's doing a 24-hour readathon in October, and she wanted to make hers like spooky themed. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, that's what I would do too, because that was my main thing, is that I want to read as much horror as I can. And one way I'm doing that this year is by reading a lot of short stories. So the one that kind of started this for me, like my decision of what I was going to read, is Stephen King's Different Seasons. So this is 4 short stories that are novellas that each take place in a different season throughout the year. And they're stories that are very well known. So one is Apt Pupil, which was adapted into a film. Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption, which obviously became The Shawshank Redemption. The Breathing Method, and the one I'm going to read this time, The Body, or Stand By Me, which Stand By Me is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I've been really wanting to read this story. So I bought it for Stand By Me, but I'm eventually going to read all of them. If you haven't seen Stand By Me, by the way, go see it. It's such a good movie. It's phenomenal. Alright, next I got Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I couldn't pass up this gorgeous Barnes & Noble. It's a hardback, but it's not like stiff. It's like cardboard covered in like a foam or something. I don't know. I like the texture. It's shiny. It's one of those ones that has the red pages on the outside, which I love when books do that. The inside, the pages are beautiful. I couldn't pass this up. And it's an easy read, so I thought it would also possibly be a good book for my readathon choice. Next up, I got Stalking Jack the Ripper, or not Stalking, the sequel to Stalking Jack the Ripper. I got Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. I said Stalking Jack the Ripper because I was thinking about how I wasn't crazy about the first book. I think I gave it like a 3 on Goodreads, but the last third really paid off. I talked about it in my, I believe, July stories. I'll leave the link down below. The story is that Audrey Rose and Thomas go to Europe's most prestigious forensics school in Romania, and it happens to be in the castle that Vlad the Impaler once lived in. And I think that's a bit interesting that they turned his castle into forensic school. We'll see the reasoning for that, if there's any history behind it. But some deaths come about, and there's some rumors that it has something to do with Vlad, and that maybe he's risen from the dead, whatnot. So of course, Audrey Rose and Thomas decide that they must investigate this. So this is definitely going to be an October read for sure. I don't know, I'm really hyped for this book. Even though I wasn't crazy about Stalking Jack the Ripper, I think maybe the supernatural is a little bit more exciting. And the last story, if you didn't notice, I've got a Jughead beanie here from Riverdale. Because it's Halloween and I'm getting this new resurgence of love for Archie comics, I decided what would be more appropriate than to read Afterlife with Archie. In this story, obviously there's a zombie apocalypse, and the zombies are led by Jughead. So it's up to Archie and the gang to fight the zombies and fight for their lives. And I read the first issue of this book, and it was fantastic. Like, it's super dark. They're not afraid to go dark with it. It's very real. Like, it's not kind of cheesy, typical Archie comics, which I also love. It's a different take on Archie, and I love that we have so many different takes on Archie. The art inside is really, like, creepy because it's mostly orange and purple. So Halloween-y, horror-ish. I love it. I'm so excited to read this one, and I'm gonna be really sad when I'm done and I want more. And there's no more. So that's gonna do it for my September book haul. Let me know if you bought any Halloween-inspired books this month, or what books in general that you did buy. I will see you guys in another video soon.